Welcome to the meeting of the Council of the City of Norwich. It is November 20th, 2017. If those of you who can, please stand, and Alderman Martin will lead us in a prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings, and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen.
And Mr. Nash?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, sir?
Excuse me, Mayor Hinchey, I'd like a point of personal privilege, please.
Certainly.
Thank you. I'd like to say goodbye. I want to take the time to say thank you to the citizens of Norwich for allowing me to serve as an alderman. I did try very hard to put the people's interests first in matters that came before me. Now I want to thank you to all the following. Betsy Barrett, clerk and staff, for all you do with so little help. I know things were tough, but you worked very hard. Attorney Michael Driscoll, you kept me out of trouble with good advice throughout my term. You're a good friend and a gentleman, sir. Thank you so very much. Thank you. City Manager John Salomon, thank you for coming to our city during our time of need. Your 30-plus years of managing municipalities is a benefit for us. Thank you for helping me whenever I needed help. I will miss you, sir. To all the City of Norwich employees, police, fire, Board of Ed, Public Works, MPU employees, Norwich Chamber of Commerce, and anyone else associated with the city. Thank you all for trying to make our city great with your combined efforts. It's a great team. Mayor Deborah Hinchey, I would be happy once again to give you my gloves if you needed them. I appreciate your advice when I asked for it. You tried really hard to make things better, and it was a pleasure serving with you. President Pro Tem Peter Nystrom. Peter, you can call me anytime you need a second person on a post hole digger. You were always supportive of me. I appreciated you and your family's friendship. We have been through a few campaigns together. I'm glad you understand my family needs me right now. Alderman Joanne Philbrick, Alderwoman, excuse me. We knew each other before politics. Despite not always agreeing on things, we put them aside and remained friendly. Good luck to you in all your future endeavors. Alderman Tucker Braddock, as a decorated soldier, I respect you and your efforts trying to make things better. You're a great example for today's youth and what public service is all about. I don't care who knows it, but I love you, man. Alderwoman Stacey Gould, I only wish good things for you. You have a good work ethic, and our citizens are lucky to have someone who works as hard as you do. You would be missed, but I have some great memories serving with you. Thank you for serving Norwich. As a fellow alderman, I respect you so very much. We tried to do some very good things together. Keep plugging away. Alderman William Nash, it was a lot of fun serving with you. You're a good man with an even bigger heart. It was a pleasure sitting next to you for 2 years. Thank you for your many years of service to our community. In parting, I was so greatly humbled in meeting so many people in our community by serving on boards and commissions before and after my term in office. I will now be pursuing more time with the Laurel Hill Volunteer Firefighter Company No. 6 as a probational firefighter. At 58 years of age, it isn't always easy, but I will continue to learn as much as I can about the fire service and contribute to the team. Thank you for letting me have this point of pleasure. Thank you very much.
I think I want to thank you for those kind words and for all the work that you did for the city. You just worked tireless, and you tried to make a difference, and I think you did. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Citizen Common General.
This is the time when you have a chance to bring up to the council anything of concern that has to do with the city. Please remember that you have 3 minutes to express your thoughts. Give us your name and address, and if you are speaking about something and you don't actually live in the city and you have a business or some connection, please let us know both. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? These are non-agenda items. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Sheila Hayes, 382 Laurel Hill Avenue. I'm here in the city of Norwich. Yes, I've moved, if the address doesn't sound familiar to you. The easy part is congratulating all of you who will be returning to the City Council, to you, President Pro Tem, as you are now Mayor-elect, to the rest of the council members who are currently here, and then the 3 additional council members who will be joining you. The hard part is saying thank you, first and foremost to the mayor, that we spent 4 years together. We've had our successes, we've had our difficulties in overcoming some of the issues that face the city, but I believe that you have worked tirelessly to advance the city, and I thank you. To Tucker Braddock, who I consider a dear, dear friend. We've been through this several times, council, and having to say goodbye to you the second time is probably more difficult than it was the first time. I'm glad to hear that you're going to stay involved in the city. Continue to wish you well, and look forward to working with you. Mr. Martin, we go back to sleeping, water and soda and all that good stuff. That was fun. You have been the fun part of what I'm going to miss on the council. Not always seeing eye to eye, but we have had our pleasures of enjoying. I am glad to hear that you too will stay involved with the city. Wish you very well wishes as you become a firefighter over in Laurel Hill, now that you're going to be over there helping to save me, should I need you. So I wish you all good luck. I am looking forward, honestly looking forward to the next chapter of the city, starting next month, as all of you who are coming back and new people who will be inducted into, sworn in, I should say, as the new city council. We have a lot of work to do. I think all of you know that. To you, President Pro Tem Peter Nystrom, there's a lot of work that's been started, but we need to complete it in the city. There are good people in the city who have volunteered. We need the city's support. We cannot, as volunteers, do everything that the city would like for us to do. We need your engagement. We're going to have to rely on your office as well as the whole city council. I thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Beryl Fishbone, 19 Bliss Place. Tonight, as we honor the pride Patricia and Robert DiTolo demonstrate in Norwich and Mohegan Park with a certificate designed by Judy Magnano and the members of the Mohegan Park Improvement, Development, and Advisory Committee. Invite the current and future members of the City Council, all city employees, students, residents, and taxpayers to join us on Earth Day. Write these on your calendars. April 22nd, 2018, for a general spiff-up of the park and repaint of the major trails markings led by Samantha Ventura. It's a way to help the Department of Public Works clean and freshen the park for the 2018 summer season, because the park belongs to everyone, and we all need to participate in taking care of it. April 27th, 2018 is Arbor Day, and we are looking to Ryan and Public Works for advice where an extra tree or two might be welcome. We are looking forward to the assistance also of students from the Moriarty Environmental Magnet School, Kelly Middle School, Norwich Technical High School, and NFA. We're thinking of expanding National Trails Day into a week-long celebration from June 2nd through June 10th, with special invitations to groups of photographers, artists, writers, and scouts. The trails are open from dusk to dawn, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Please be in touch if you feel a particular group needs a special invitation. We'll need a contact name and an email address. Norwich, Connecticut is very unique, even for a city in New England, to have so much green space spread throughout the city and to have such a large park in its center. Inviting people to visit our park is a way to demonstrate the commitment of our city to the environment and health of its residents and how we experience in caring and preparing for the future of our city. Thank you on behalf of the Mohegan Park Improvement, Development, and Advisory Committee. Serving the public is never easy, and these past 2 years have had some very special challenges for you all. I want to thank you all for seeing through the challenges and for the rewards the City of Norwich has received because of your hard work. Mayor Hinchey, Tucker, and Jerry, you will be missed. And if you're looking for some new projects, I just happen to have a list that we can go over after the meeting. To the rest of the council that is remaining, and to the ones that will be joining you, I look forward to your goals and achievements. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Is there any? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Rodney Boyce, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. First, I'd like to thank you folks for having served. I do appreciate the effort. I realize most people don't agree with things I say. I don't hold any hard feelings, and you folks have done a good job, really. We have some differences of opinion on no matter what issue anybody is ever going to bring up here in this city. But I think the councils work pretty well together. I've seen a lot of councils here, and I appreciate Deborah for being our guidance for the past few years because, quite frankly, she's had a rough road. It isn't easy. But in truth, I'd like to thank all of you. I really appreciate the effort you put out. I was going to make some comments on financial stuff, but I think I'll save it for the next council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Good evening, David Krebs, 47 Prospect Street. I'm going to talk about propaganda. Advertising is and was demonstrated to be effective at the beginning of the 20th century when tobacco companies targeted women to add more customers. Nowadays, the Washington Post gets free commercials under the First Amendment to promote the deep state. That's the bureaucrats who are unionized, who are holding up President Trump from accomplishing his goals because he promoted cutting the federal employment by 10% right off the bat when he was became president. They fear their employment since he announced that. And the Washington Post keeps adding more and more advertising under the First Amendment. Under the Obama administration, federal employment and benefits for previously denied disabled and others escalated. For example, a tax-free agency I support targeted abuses from the EPA, which I happen to leave over here. I didn't feel like copying this. A top EPA, this is an organization I support because it's a tax exempt. An EPA official had to resign recently because he stated publicly what is too obvious about how the EPA operates. They come down hard on American citizens they deem as violating EPA regulations to make examples of them. Now this former EPA official compared the EPA's approach to ancient Roman practice of controlling conquering towns by crucifying the first 5 individuals and everybody else lined up after that. The Russia-Trump election smokescreen is hiding how the Obama and State Department under Hillary sold 20% of U.S. uranium to Russia that rewarded the Clinton Foundation with $140 million. The Louisiana Purchase, which was government tax and people's dollars, rationale have prevented or denied U.S. citizens from mining untold times. The most recent above is reclaiming the Standing Rock Reservation for the XL pipeline. Washington Post is an
Thank you,
advertiser.
sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Attorney Glenn Carberry, 27 Greenwich Court, Norwich. First, like the other speakers, I'd like to personally thank Mayor Hinchey and all the members of the council for your past service in these difficult and sometimes trying times. But my comments tonight are respectively submitted to the new council and the new mayor for their consideration as they work to build a better future for our city. The main thing I wanted to talk about is I'm disappointed with some of the choices that have been made recently as to capital expenditures. To my knowledge, this council and the voters approved $8 or $9 million of new bonding or budgeted capital expenditures last year for fire trucks, roads, and certain selected items. However, nothing meaningful, to my knowledge, was spent to maintain important recreational assets that I think make Norwich distinctive. These facilities are an important part of the city's revitalization plan to make Norwich more attractive. We need to attract young talent and families that are coming to our area for EB and other employers, and the time is now. But beyond that, we need to retain as residents in this community business people and professional people that sometimes play an important part of our community leadership for many organizations. One person recently told me that only about a dozen of Bacchus Hospital's more than 300 physicians now live in Norwich. I don't know for sure if that's true, but that's what I've been told. Right now, too many people are leaving this city because they're worried about the future and they're worried about the deteriorating condition of our facilities. I would mention 2 quick examples. First, the failure to fund regular maintenance and improvements to Dodge Stadium, which is one of only 7 professional baseball facilities in New England and has brought more than 5 million people to events here. This is a critical mistake. The city has spent a total of about $1.8 million over 24 years to build the stadium, to maintain it, and to improve it, or about $70,000 per year. The feasibility study which I wrote and which the DCD and this city council accepted called for $60,000 to be set aside annually for a repair and replacement fund. This has not been done, and the failure to include all or part of the repairs needed in bonding proposals over the last 5 years or in the capital budget, as requested by the Baseball Stadium Authority for the past 2 years, is regrettable. Please consider changing this policy in the future.
Thank you, sir.
And also the Armstrong tennis courts, but that'll be for another day.
Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Hearing none, I declare the citizen comment general period to be over, and I thank you all very much for your comments.
Public Hearing 1, an ordinance to be listed as Section 2-23 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances concerning municipal energy utility cooperatives and establishing the position of a municipal representative to be appointed by the council to the city of Norwich.
I declare this public hearing on said proposed ordinance to be open. And we have some folks who have signed up. First is Marvin Cerruto.
Good evening. Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, United States of America. I just wanted to briefly say I'm in favor of this position. I hope it is a position with very much communications and a lot of reporting, no matter how boring or mundane it may seem. And also, if you would clarify on the qualifications, number 2 says a residential or commercial rate payer. It leads me to believe that you have to have your name on a bill to be a part of this, to be on this position. If you could clarify that in your discussion, I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you, and good luck to all the newcomers.
Thank you, sir. Brian Kovalars.
Good evening, Brian Koblar, 16 Hobart Avenue. I would like to take you back just a little bit in time, only 8 months ago, when you had a turnover in a person that was on the Board of Commissioners for NBU, a similar position in many ways to what you're looking at naming to CMEC. But a problem that the council had at that point that they said was there was a lack of communication, a lack of accountability. They did not know what was going on. Unfortunately, State of Connecticut statutes 17-23, I believe, which sets up this position, has only minimal requirements for minutes, the content of minutes that happen at CMEC meetings. And looking at this ordinance tonight, I'm also seeing a very big hole, and that is the lack of any reporting back to the council from the person that is supposed to be the ratepayers, the city's representative to the CMEC board. We need to learn from the lessons of the past. When there has been no means of having a line of communication back to the council, back to the public, we need to take the opportunity to include that language within this ordinance to ensure that we know what decisions are being made, what discussions are taking place that will affect all of us through this organization. We don't need to know about everybody else's town, everybody else's city, but they're our representative. Let's ensure that we know what is being said that affects us. Include that language within this so that moving forward, this council can be the one that set the precedent of having an ordinance passed that will do its job, what it was intended. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rodney Bowie? You're passing? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this ordinance? Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir?
Good evening, David Krebs, 47 Prospect Street. To mimic the last speaker, the lack of communication is evident, and I believe you have the cart in front of the horse tonight. As the previous speaker was talking about the lack of communication and the shortfalls in the current operation of CMEEC and NPU, I believe what you need is a updated ethics code to give to the new member so that they will not be surprised about how the ethics code operates. This is absolutely wrong. What you need is to provide the new member with the information they need to do their job, and it includes going back and, as the day would report, the NPU CMEEC lawyer stonewalls and hides half of the information that should be made available to the public. This new member should be aware of what the minutes are and what's needed ahead of time, and the ethics code is the beginning. So I think this is premature, very premature. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, sir?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph DeLucia. I live at 37 Sherwood Lane. I, too, would like to know what the reporting requirement is going to be back to the City Council of this person. I haven't been able to find exactly what that's going to be, and so that is a question in my mind. However, the larger issue to me is that I would like to see the council table the appointment until the incoming City Council is seated. I realize that some of you may feel, as one of the outgoing council members was quoted, that you took the heat for the creation of this person's position, and that you should be able to make the pick. However, when we consider the fact that 3 new aldermen will be seated on December 5th, it will be the next council that will be living with the result of this important appointment. Accordingly, we should make the pick. Lastly, I would like you to call to mind the hiring of Mr. Salamone and how this council expected that important decision to be held over by the previous council until you were sworn in. And I ask that you hold yourselves to the same standard in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else wishing to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else wishing to speak on this ordinance? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. Thank you all very much.
Number 1, an ordinance to be listed as Section 2-23 of the Norwich Code of Ordinance concerning municipal electric utility cooperatives and establishing the position of a municipal representative to be appointed by the council of the city of Norwich.
Is there a motion and second to waive the reading of the full text and incorporate it into the minutes, said ordinance being given the second reading? Alderman Braddock, Alderwoman Gould. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And one. Is one opposed?
Thank you.
Is there a motion and a second to put the following ordinance on the floor? Alderwoman Philbrick, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Yes, sir?
Prior to this meeting, this ordinance did come into discussion.
I'm sorry? I couldn't hear you.
I said prior to this meeting, some of us had a discussion about this very same ordinance in a caucus. And one of the things that, as a group, that we felt that we'd like to make an amendment, make a motion to amend this.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that after number 5 on, we're under qualifications under B, I'd like to see a number 6 created to say ethics training prior to the first meeting. Obviously, we appointed a gentleman to the NPU board, and he did not have his ethics training, and he made a decision that wasn't in the best interest of the city, and I'd like to avoid this by proposing this change.
Is there a second? Mr. Nash? Those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, so then we end. We will take direction from Corporation Counsel.
With the amendment, you can continue to discuss, but with the amendment, you can't vote on the overall ordinance tonight. You've adopted the amendment, it has to be republished, and it'll come back, presumably the next council meeting for action. Do you have specific language that you want, or do you want,
Yeah, basically, just have it say that ethics training completed prior to the first meeting of him or her on the CMAC board, basically. However you want to put it in legalese, Counselor, I'm sure you'll find a way, but that's the theme and the spirit of what I want to state.
I guess the question is this. If you haven't identified a person, that person may or may not have taken ethics training. If you're going to appoint someone, do you give them time from the day of the appointment to the date within which to take ethics training?
I would like them, before they sit down for one meeting, even before then, to have completed either the online ethics training, which is very quick. It's a 30-minute thing there that they can do online, and also that they sign a piece of paper saying that they received the current ethics that we have in our charter right now. I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, but I guess that's the question, what the training would be and the time framing for it.
Before
you
they're
could set
seated.
it- You can set it 30 days, or you can say prior to engaging in...
Their first meeting, exactly. Thank you.
I think we know it.
Is there further discussion? Yes, ma'am?
I think that by incorporating Alderman Martin's amendment, it could also give us the opportunity to incorporate the language that has been proposed by some of the members of the audience regarding communication and the reporting back. I don't know if that requires an additional amendment. It also would facilitate the issue of the new council. And I have to say that I agree with Joe. We were adamant about the fact that we be allowed to sit in on the selection of the new city manager. So to be fair and equitable, it's only fair and equitable that the new council be allowed to participate in the selection of the new CMEC representative.
We're just trying to figure out how to...
You don't need a motion on that, that's just a question of the timing of the appointment.
Yeah, but,
I think Mr. Braddock had
Oh,
his hand
sorry.
up.
The way I understand the CMAC opportunity for another person, another vote coming from our city, it's a fiduciary responsibility to CMAC and not to this council. It's how I understand this.
There are some things that a person may not be able to reveal, right, because of an ethical obligation to CMAC, but most things they would be able to report to the council in the same way that members of NPU at public meetings report on activities and things like that. Those things that are truly proprietary or confidential, it may be that there's a limitation on what they can notify in order to meet their ethical obligation, or their fiduciary obligation, better term, to both organizations.
Follow up to that. So is the council looking for that kind of information to come back for our city to look at? I think a person can give a report as to what the generalities of the meeting was, but like you said earlier, most of this is done in proprietary conditioning and not there for the public.
Mr. Nash?
I was looking at the agenda. We're not
Could you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry, ma'am. We're not appointing anybody tonight, so I'm confused. The chances are this council is not even going to have anybody available before the next meeting. I don't know why we're...
As I understand, the direction from Corporation Council is this must come back. We can't vote on it tonight.
Yeah,
It has
so
to
I don't
be
understand. Yeah,
republished.
all right, no
And
problem.
so
Thank you.
the new appointment will not be able to be made by this council.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, but we'll have anybody by then.
Did you all want to speak out loud?
Sorry.
Sir, this is your second time.
Thank you. Just for clarity, in this decision this evening, this council will not select that new CMAQ representative. Is that correct?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
If you were to bring this back at the meeting of December 4th for action,
Right.
the council could, this will be a new business, an old business item, it'll come up early in the meeting, the council could later, if it chooses to do so, make the appointment as the existing council. Conversely, if you do not at that time, it'll go to the next council to make the appointment, which they will do at their pleasure.
We have 2 meetings left.
No, you have one meeting
You
left
have one.
as this council if you hold the meeting on December 4th.
Okay.
Anybody else? Did you have something?
Please. For information purposes, we're still interviewing applicants for this position. In fact, there are interviews tomorrow evening. If anyone is here who did not apply, you need to go online and put an application in, you would be considered. Applications are still open to be received by the appointing members of the subcommittee of the council. And I hope people who may be listening at home are hearing this as well. If you have an interest, you can still apply for this position. That is still an opportunity that's available to those who would consider this.
Anyone else? We voted on the amendment.
I guess the only thing to be determined at this point, when do you want this to come back before the council? You could bring it back on December 4th if you choose, or you could defer it to the next council, but you should pick a date for bringing this back. Action to be postponed until the next meeting or whenever.
What is the council's pleasure? The date you would like to bring this back? Yes, sir?
To respond to people who have spoken to us today, as well as to agree with Alderwoman Philbrick, it would be my recommendation that we not take action on this on the 4th. Therefore, the new council will address this.
Do we need a second?
You might schedule it then for the first business meeting of the new council, which would be...
January 2nd,
is it
Tuesday
December?
this...
No, December,
Oh,
whatever.
yes, sorry, I apologize. December 18th.
December 18th would be the first business meeting of the new council, or you could postpone it to later. The only thing is that right now we have, the way it's drafted, the appointment is to set up for December 1st. You may want to also amend the date to change the date that the appointment becomes effective, perhaps to January 1st if you're going to do it or if you think it's going to be done at the December meeting.
Mayor, may I ask a question of the corporation? With an amendment having been offered and passed, are we not responsible to republish it as a first reading again?
Yes,
You'll
that's
have
the
to
delay.
republish
Yes,
it.
so then you
That's
couldn't
why you
act on
can't
it for
vote
2 more
tonight.
weeks after that anyway.
Well, no, the publication will simply state this is the new ordinance, the night that you'll be acting on it. You don't have to have a second public hearing. If you've had the public
Okay.
hearing tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
So is that a amendment?
Yes, Mike, if you would help me out.
Well, I guess the question is, if the decision is not have to be made before mid-December, you might want to change the date that the appointment is effective from December 1st to some other date.
The next meeting is the 18th.
Correct.
And after a resolution, I'm sorry, an ordinance is passed, it doesn't take effect for 10
10
days.
days.
So you're literally at the end of December if it's passed on the 18th. So this is...
My recommendation would be that we act on this the first meeting in January, whatever date that is.
Do you know the date?
January 2nd.
That would be January 2nd, Tuesday the 2nd.
Tuesday, the 2nd.
Tuesday the 2nd.
Is there a second? Mr. Nash, all those in favor? And those opposed? Mr. Martin? So it's,
Are you changing the date of the appointment?
We need another amendment, don't we?
Well,
It can be one.
you'll need another amendment if you're going to change the date of the appointment, which right now will be effective December 1st, 2017.
Okay, I think we need a motion and a second to change the date of the appointment to
Maybe perhaps January 1st.
January 1st.
But we haven't appointed it.
That won't,
It hasn't been appointed yet.
that wouldn't work.
Well, I'm thinking going forward prospectively. What you've done is you've taken away, or what you will do if you change the date, is taken away from the currently sitting council to make the appointment to the new council coming in. So every 2 years when new council comes in, they will make an appointment. You can make it effective whatever date you want. I mean, the person is going to be not going to be able to sit until they complete the ethics training, so if you made it effective January 1st or January 15th or whatever you think works best, but that will be the date that the appointment becomes effective.
Mr. Nash?
I'll make a motion that we make it effective January 15th.
I'm sorry?
That we make it effective January 15th.
Is there a second? President Pro Tem, those in favor? And those opposed? Mr. Martin? 6-1. Are we done with this one? Okay.
Right along, sorry.
Thank you all.
Petitioning communications, number 1, letter of resignation from Lyndall Bertelson from the Ethics Commission.
Is there a motion and a second, please, to accept this letter? Alderman Braddock, Alderwoman Gould, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we thank Mrs. Bertelson for her time on the Ethics Commission.
Number 2, letter of resignation from Margaret Aldrich from the Senior Affairs Commission.
Motion and a second, please. President Pro Tem and Alderwoman Gould. Those in favor of accepting this?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. And I think we all would like to thank Margaret Aldrich for all the time that she put into senior affairs.
Number 3, letter from the United States Department of Justice congratulating Lieutenant John Perry for his exemplary contribution regarding his community policing.
First of all, it gives me great honor to present to all of you a really terrific honor that happened a few weeks ago. So in order that you understand what this is about, I'm going to read a letter that Lieutenant Perry received from Deirdre Daly, the United States Attorney. Several weeks ago, we asked Connecticut police chiefs to nominate an officer or a community leader who embodies the best of community policing. On October 25th, they held an award ceremony recognizing those officers and community leaders who have used the power of collaboration and partnership to make their communities safer. It is my great pleasure to congratulate you, as you have been selected to receive an award for distinguishing yourself through exemplary contributions to strengthening the relationship between the police and the communities we serve. And I have had the great pleasure of working with Lieutenant Perry, and we've been knowing each other for many years, and so it started out with one of the canines. I have watched him over the last several years, and he accompanied me and my team on business visits we did for many years. And the connection that Lieutenant Perry has with the community is remarkable. It has been an honor to go places with you, to see you work in the community, and I think it's an honor for the police department to have such an individual. And if you will indulge me, I'll just read a little bit of advice.
Don't embarrass me.
Okay. I think it's too late. Lieutenant John Perry is a 15-year member of the Norwich Police Department and has led the Norwich Police Community Policing Unit since 2016. In the area of community relations, Lieutenant Perry's actions were truly exceptional. Lieutenant Perry would work hand in hand with the community and faith-based community organizations to jointly sponsor community forums and events that were all highly successful. Lieutenant Perry became the face of the Norwich Police Department, and there was not one community event that did not have NPD, CPU involvement. Lieutenant Perry also partnered with Norwich Mayor Hinchey to do business visits with the Norwich businesses. These visits allowed Lieutenant Perry to act as an ambassador for the Norwich Police Department while learning the needs and challenges Norwich businesses face. He was able, using community policing problem-solving skills, to address and, in most cases, solve issues making Norwich an attractive community to do business in. And in May of 2017, Lieutenant Perry was recognized by the Norwich branch of the NAACP for his efforts and was awarded the Robert C. Duncan Youth Council Community Service Award. He is also active as a volunteer in the community where he resides. He serves as a volunteer basketball coach and soccer coach for the Norwich PAL. And it is such a pleasure to announce it.
Thank you very much.
I think it's important to celebrate our police department. You know, our news is filled with such unpleasant and strife at times, and when you see a department that does what the Norwich Police Department does and is represented by people and many fine other women and men, it is a true honor. I have to tell you that about, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just had a question for one of the police officers, and so about 6:30, as I was going to a meeting, I called Mr. Viega on the phone, thinking 6:30 is not a bad time, probably supper's over, and he answered the phone, and he said, "Good morning, Mayor." And I thought he had become quite delirious. And so I said, "Oh, well, you must be working very hard. You don't even know it's 6:30 at night." And he said, "No, it's 11:30 here. I'm in Europe." So I had woke him up, and he was really very kind and considerate about it. I said, "Oh, my God, go back to sleep." And he said, "No, what's the problem?" And I didn't continue on. I bothered somebody else in the morning. So I think that our police department, it has been such an honor to work with you all these many years, and I'm so proud of you. So thank you all very much.
Number 4, presentation to Mr. and Mrs. Robert DiTolo for keeping Mohegan Park clean of trash.
flowers to give to you also. You have to give you some flowers. Let them be an example to you and to your children, and let them all chip in, and that it makes it easier for everybody. So again, thank you on behalf of the city. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Number 5, letter from the Ethics Commission.
A motion and a second to accept the letter. Mr. Martin, Alderman Gould, those in favor? And that's unanimous.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for November 20th, 2017. I first want to congratulate Peter Nystrom, our newly elected mayor, Stacy Gould, Joanne Philbrick, and Bill Nash for winning re-election, and newcomers Stephanie Burnham, Joe DeLucia, and Samuel Browning. The official swearing-in ceremony will take place on Tuesday, December 5th at 7:30 p.m., with a reception immediately following. Board of Education members will also be sworn in that evening. The mayor and I continue our weekly meetings. I had a phone interview with Joey Bergone from WTIC regarding the state budget effects on local communities. I attended the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments and Southeast Transit Board of Directors meeting on November 15th. I did a phone interview with Kevin Gordon of WICH regarding the upcoming sale of 80 Broadway for the proposed food hall, which is an exciting project for downtown. Dispatcher negotiations with the dispatcher union were held on Friday, November 17th. The city received a copy of a proposed financial commitment letter from Betsy Crum of the Women's Institute, the developer of the Read and Use building, on Friday, November 17th. I had a conference call with members of the Women's Institute, Corporation Council, and staff. A discussion was held regarding the proposed financing of the stabilization phase. We will be continuing the discussion in another conference call this week. Cat's Meow City Hall's figurines have arrived and are on sale in the clerk's office for $15. I've seen them, and they're very nicely put together. All profits will benefit the Lights Up City Hall event, which will be held on Friday, December 1st. I also would like to thank Steve and Joan Eaton and John and Mary Johnson for their tree donations for the city holiday festivities. And that completes my report for this evening.
Any questions for the city manager? Yes, ma'am.
Mine is three-pronged. Can you give us an update on the state budget effects? I believe I read something in the paper that we lost an additional $692,000. Is that correct?
It's not 692. I think that I did receive an email today from Josh Pothier, our controller, and I believe the total amount is about $1.4 million. The difference, the updated difference, was about $258,000. So it's not the $600,000 or so.
Well, that's good news. My second part is dispatcher negotiations, ongoing or finalized?
Ongoing.
Ongoing. Okay, no, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for the city manager? I would like to tail on to his discussion that today Governor Malloy announced that Norwich received $200,000 grant for the investigation of the last undeveloped portion of the former Panema Mill site, which is a 5.5-acre site located at 555-559 Norwich Avenue. So a lot of people went into working on that grant, and it's huge for that area. And I want to publicly thank everyone who worked on that. As you can see, that project continues on, so that's a good thing.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes.
For those of you who have not seen them, oh my God.
You gotta go down.
I thought I was in Back Bay or Soho or someplace. It certainly is a project that will bring, hopefully, additional income and people to Norwich and certainly to Taffville. But I didn't go in. I want to go in, but I'm afraid to go in because then I might want to move. But from the outside, the grounds and everything are just spectacular.
It is.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Again, I would ask that you come up, give us your ideas on the agenda items. Be sure that you state your name and address. If you are not living in the city but you have business in the city, please state both addresses. And also limit your comments to 3 minutes. No takers? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, everybody. Stephanie Burnham, 26 Cedar Lane, Norwich. I just want to commend the city manager and this council for fully funding the recreation director position in the amended budget and recognizing the need for this critical position. It's essential for the improvement of quality of life, not only for our kids, but for the overall vitality of the entire community. And I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir?
David Krebs, 47 Prospect Street. I'll address resolution number 8. As I was going across the items in this new amendment, it came to my attention that the benefits for the 2 positions who had their, which are delayed until the 1st of December, are 24% of the total of each position. This seems to me to be contrary to all the good news we've heard about union contracts and how much the employees are giving up when the benefits for the end of 2017 are 24% of the position for a short period of time. This is far out of step with the propaganda we're getting about how much the city employees are giving up on these union contracts. I believe that these 2 appointments should be suspended until next budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items? Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items? I declare this closed. Thank you all very much.
Resolution number 1, relative to the sale of 80 and 68 Broadway.
Motion and a second, please. President Pro Tem and Alderwoman Gould.
This resolution has to be referred to the Commission on the City Plan for a report. My understanding is that they will have a special meeting in the next week or so. You could bring it back to December 4th, if that's when you're going to meet, or it could be deferred to the next council, but December 4th, I think, would be the first available date for you to take this up.
So do we need a motion to refer it to?
I think you need a motion to refer it to the Commission on the City Plan for its report, and then to postpone action on this until the date the council wants to take it up.
So I'll take a motion and a second to refer to the Commission on City Plan. Alderman Braddock, Alderwoman Gould. All those in favor?
Aye.
And now we'll take a motion and a second to bring it back at the pleasure of the council. Yes, ma'am?
I would make a motion that we bring it back at the first meeting of the new city council.
Which will be January
December 18th.
December 18th. Is there a second? Alderwoman Gould, those in favor? And everybody, those in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous.
Number 2, relative to listing 11 Lake Street.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Philbrick, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous.
Number 3, relative to forming a committee of sale for 347 Central Avenue.
A motion and a second, please. Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Martin. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? That's unanimous.
Number 4, relative to reappointments of regular members to the Ethics Commission.
A motion and a second, please. Alderman Braddock, Alderwoman Gould. For the benefit of all, this are regular members of the Ethics Commission, Catherine Lord, Robert Ballard, Carol Menard, and Christopher Dixon. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
And that would be unanimous.
Number 5, relative to reappointments and an appointment of regular members to the Norwich Baseball Stadium Authority.
A motion and a second, please, Mr. Martin and Alderwoman Gould. Regular members to be appointed are Robert Reed and Matthew Fortin. And those are reappointments, I'm sorry. And appointments, regular member is Fred Phelps. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Number 6, relative to a reappointment of an alternate member to the Historic District Commission.
Is there a motion and a second, please? Alderman Braddock, Alderman Martin. This alternate member to the Historic District Commission is Timothy Dohan. I hope I said his name right. Dohan. And any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous.
Number 7, relative to reappointments as regular members to the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Motion and a second, please. Alderman Braddock, Alderwoman Gould. Regular members to the Persons with Disabilities is Lottie B. Scott, Jane O'Friel, and Kevin Harkins. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? 2. Mr. Nystrom, were you opposed?
No.
So just Mr. Martin is opposed.
Number 8, relative to amending the 17-18 general fund expenditure budget adopted on June 12, 2017.
Is there a motion and second, please? Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Braddock. Is there discussion?
I now move to amend Resolution Number 8 by substituting a new amended Resolution Number 8, which will be distributed to the council. I respectfully request Mayor Hinchey and/or the city manager, John Salamone, that we ask Josh Pothier, the comptroller, to come forward to summarize this new resolution and its impact on the budget.
Okay, is there a second? Alderman Braddock. Mr. Pothier? Right. See?
Good evening, everyone. John is passing out copies of this amended proposed resolution.
Does everybody have a copy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you're looking at the table on the old resolution and the table on the new resolution, looking at the table on the old resolution, the first 3 items for increasing the advertising, printing, and postage costs related to issuing an additional round of motor vehicle bills has been removed. Those costs will either be absorbed by the finance budget, or we'll have to just deal with them with budget transfers later on in the fiscal year. So those have been removed from the revised resolution. Moving down the list, a few spots to where the recreation director is addressed. The revision assumes that the recreation director, who will be starting, I believe, later this week or next week, will remain as a part-time recreation director for the remainder of this fiscal year. In the original Resolution 8, the recreation director was to be increased to full-time on April 1st, 2018. Then below that, the recreation facilities maintenance position, on the new resolution, this assumes that this position will be left vacant for the entire fiscal year. And then finally, toward the bottom of the list on the old resolution, increasing the landfill recycling operation line items for the increases in SCARA tipping fees and bulky waste costs. That item is removed and will be addressed later on in the fiscal year if necessary through budget transfers.
You may want to say what the net result of that is.
Right. The net result is a savings of $72,627, which you'll see in the version 2, and that amount is added to the non-departmental contingency account, which will be either used for budget transfers later in the year, or if gone unused, it will revert to close out into the unrestricted fund balance for the general fund.
Is there any further questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question and a concern, Josh. Reduction in part-time seasonal wages of $10,000. Out of whose part-time seasonal budget is that coming out of?
The recreation department.
Okay, and how are we going to address the hiring of lifeguards come next spring? Because I personally am not going down that road again. So how
Correct.
are we going to fund
So
the
the
lifeguards?
The $10,000 reduction is recognizing the reduction in expenditures from lifeguards over the summer. This fiscal year started July 1st, 2017, so July and August, when the lifeguards would have normally been in place, they weren't, so we saved wages on those positions.
Okay, so you can say with a great deal of confidence that there will not be a problem.
Right, there'll be funding in place to hire lifeguards.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Pothier? No? Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, Josh.
Further discussion? We have a motion. We have a motion and a second to amend it to this. Yes, ma'am?
Oh, you need a motion to make that?
No, you didn't.
Wait a minute.
So what we have before us is the motion that has been seconded to discuss. Well, if there's no more discussion. I was going to let them discuss it if they. No further discussion? Yes, sir?
While I agree in principle with the changes that have been presented in front of me, I cannot in good conscience support these changes. 20 minutes before I sat here, I was made aware of these changes, while other members who sit here in the same place that I'm sitting at were made aware of this. I don't feel that's right, and for those reasons, I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am?
With all due respect to Alderman Martin, there have been numerous times when all of us have been in that position where, for whatever reason, we weren't appraised of a situation. I would personally have liked to have received this amendment at the beginning of the meeting, not 10 minutes before we're going to vote on it. But having said that, no one who knows me knows that I am probably the most fiscally prudent person here. I question spending every penny. But when I look at this, I look at it as a compromise. No one wants to see anyone lose their job. It creates, the people that are noted here have been under a great deal of stress, I imagine, since the beginning of the fiscal year. They didn't know if their positions would be saved, whether their positions would be eliminated. It causes great physical, emotional, and financial stress. These are good employees. All our employees are good employees. And this is a savings, as Mr. Pothier indicated. It's a savings of $72,000 and change. So if we can keep this for now, and then when the budget season rears its ugly head again, we will have to make difficult choices again. But to me, this is a compromise, and I will be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Any further discussions? All in favor of the amendment? And that is 6 opposed, 1. So the amendment carries. 6 in favor, 1 opposed. And so the motion carries as amended.
The amendment, you've passed the amendment, now you vote on the amended
Resolution. Do we need we have them?
Yeah, motion.
Okay. Okay? We are now voting on the actual resolution. Those in favor? And that would be 6, and opposed, 1.
New business, an ordinance revising the motor vehicle mill rate in ordinance number 1748 concerning the tax levies on the list of October 1st, 2016.
Is there a motion and a second to schedule a public hearing for second reading and action on the proposed ordinance for December 4th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m., said ordinance being given its first reading? Alderwoman Gould, Alderman Braddock. All those in favor? Did you want to say something?
I had a question. There's been some discussion of whether we have the meeting on December 4th or not, and if we schedule it in this motion to be December 4th and the council chooses not to have that meeting, which has been a traditional decision made in prior years, then we're messing up.
Well, I think you're kind of back into a position where if you don't adopt this on December 4th, and you wait to December 18th to adopt it, you won't get the bills out in time for people who, remember the tax bills come due January 1st, so you want to give anybody who's going to get a tax bill an opportunity, and there is a delay between your adoption and the effective date of the act. So the bills wouldn't go out until it's effective, meaning people might not actually receive the bills until after the 1st of January if you postpone acting on it.
Thank you.
Okay, where were we? Did we vote?
We just voted.
Well, we were in, no. I think we
Everybody voted because.
We did?
Motion to adjourn.
Pro Tem was
Okay, so
asking the
did,
question while they were.
I don't think we actually
fine?
voted.
Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Mr. Braddock, all those in favor? Yikes. Thank you all.